I'm so excited to bring you guys this interview this week with Miss Keila Sierra. First of all, she's like my big sister. Second of all, she's just such a dope person, like in general. Um, you're going to hear about some of her story, but from losing her parents at a young age, from addiction to like being a teen mom to like dealing with depression, to owning a barber shop with her husband. And guys, she's not just like a barber, she is like super talented. And now she started her own page for makeup on YouTube. And I feel like for all that she's accomplished in her life so far, what makes me so excited is that I know that there's so much more for her. And I just love her energy and the vibe that she brings. So I hope that you guys enjoy this new episode, this new interview. And yeah, let's get into it.
Welcome, Miss Keila Sierra, to Get Up 10 podcast. Thank you for giving me some of your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm super excited for this interview. You are like a big sister to me and just such an amazing person. And I think that your story is super dope. So hopefully my listeners will get to see that as well.
Thank you. Listen, this is my first podcast interview ever. So, hey.
It might be worth something one day.
Yes. I'm claiming that. Yeah. I'm excited it's with you. I'm very excited it's with you. I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing. You're a rock star. I love your energy. So I'm very excited that my first podcast gets to be with you.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. These pregnancy emotions.
Girl, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. So just some background on my podcast. My podcast is called Get Up 10, obviously. And I named that after a Cardi B song because the whole message of like knock me down 9 times, but I get up 10, and just getting back up when life knocks you down, which definitely happens to everyone. And
right.
The whole message of like being resilient and persistent has always resonated with me. So that being said,
Same.
How has life knocked you down?
Girl, it's hard for me to pick one because I promise you, like you said, I go through that all the time too. But I would definitely say the one that sticks out the most is just like from our early childhood, just a little background. So both my parents really struggled hard body with heroin. And so I was kind of born into that struggle. And as a kid, I obviously didn't even know that was an issue. That was like my norm. You know, my dad was in jail for 10 years. So I didn't meet my dad till I was about like 11. He went to jail when I was really, really young. I was like 11, 12. And my mother, unfortunately, she passed away about a week before my 13th birthday due to a drug overdose. And then my dad went back to jail. So early on in my life, it was just a hot mess, you know, and it really, really, really could have knocked me down and kept me down there. I got pregnant with my son at the age of 14, you know, just looking for love in the wrong places and just, you know, and it really was just, I never really received a lot of affection as a kid. My grandmother did an awesome job with what she had. But, you know, she lost her daughter to a drug overdose. And just looking back at it, like I'm 29 years old now, and my mom passed away when she was 33. So we're kind of close in age now. And I'm like, wow, my mom was a baby at the time she passed away. And I just, as an adult, I look at it so differently. And I've learned to not really blame the neglect that I felt like I got when I was younger, because I understand from a parent's perspective, it's like, I don't know how I would receive it and how I would even cope with losing my child, especially to, you know, just that ugly drug addiction that a lot of people struggle with. But one thing about me just going through all of that was I refused to allow myself to get hit by life so many times and just eat that. Like, my whole thing was like, I went through so much when I was younger. Thank God I got that over with. I'm now going to take life into my own hands and thrive and make life the best that I can, and make sure that I give my son the life that I know that we both can have. And with that being said, you know, I really did struggle. The stuff didn't happen right away. I struggled with a lack of self-confidence. I found myself in abusive relationships, just still, like I said, looking for love in the wrong places and trying to fill that void that I had just through going through what I went through. But when I did find the self-confidence, I went to school. I became a dual licensed barber, cosmetologist. I'm now a shop owner. I'm an educator. Life's good now, girl.
Yeah. And what would you say was that defining moment where you decided to like take control essentially over your life instead of just being like, woe is me and like I've been through all this stuff and like that whole quote unquote victim mentality? Like, was there a defining moment or like?
Absolutely. So to be completely transparent, the defining moment, I remember it like it was yesterday. When I got out of my abusive relationship about 12 years ago, it's about 11 to 12 years ago, I found myself, excessively drinking and just partying, just trying to numb myself. And I remember a conversation. I was with my childhood best friend. Like, we grew up together. We went to elementary school, high school together. And I remember the moment I said, it was like the next morning after partying, and we were talking about spending money on the stuff that we were buying, alcohol and the whole 9 yards. And I was like, at least I don't really spend money on it like that. And she was like, girl, you spent like $300 just last week on whatever it was. And that was like a wake up call to me. My whole thing was like, number one, I'm a mother. I can't be doing this. And I lost my mother to a drug overdose. I lost my mom to this lifestyle. Like, I'm not going to give my son this life. Like, that pain was so hard instilled into me. Is just, my son was my why. Even though I was so young, like, I wanted to give him a good life and I didn't want to repeat history. So that really was the turning point. I completely cut all my friends off. It was very lonely for me. I went through a really long time period of depression, but I just kept myself busy, and I enrolled myself in school, and that was just my drive. I was going to give my son the best life.
So the next question is supposed to be like, how did you get back up? But I feel like you kind of already touched on that as far as like just, I don't know how I want to say this, but I have the image of like a closet and like you just getting in there and like cleaning it out as far as like relationships go. And then like you said, you kept busy, and I feel like those are definitely.
You know what I learned through that whole process, not to interrupt you, but just to like kind of help even direct it towards that topic, is I remember being so afraid of being by myself that I was literally willing to compromise who my circle of influence was. Like, I had friends around me that I wanted them to love me for me, but they only loved me for what I had. We were partying, like, and when you took away the partying, I realized we had nothing else in common. When I had to kind of stop everything and put myself in school, I became boring and people really didn't want to hang out with me. And I learned to not compromise. And I was like, you know what, it's going to have to be okay. And I'm going to have to learn how to love Keila by myself. And when I did that, and I spent a long time by myself, it was a long time. And I focused on me, and I realized I started attracting different type of people. And I realized, because I was about my business without me even looking for it, like, people that were about their business too, they wanted to start coming around me and they wanted to help me, so it really, that was a defining moment for me. It's a lesson learned that I take with me and pass on to younger kids too, because I see it. A lot of kids hang out with kids that they know they don't like them. You know, a lot of us are guilty of that, but we have so many underlying issues within ourselves, whether we want to admit it or not, to the point where we compromise, you know?
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I was just thinking about, like, when do we really learn how to be good alone? I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess it's a little bit easier if you're like an only child, but even then, like, you still have to like go to school and you're always like with people, kind of. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it because I
I
feel
mean,
like,
I feel like it takes different forms. Like, you can get to a point in life where you are completely fine being by yourself, but like a lot of us do struggle with mental health, especially with now with this whole global pandemic that's going on, like with human interaction being so far-fetched right now. I know it's easy for people to slip into like, I need to be around people, but right now is the time to really look into yourself and learn who you are. What are some past traumas that you never addressed? You know, what are some underlying things that are controlling your emotions that you may have no idea that you even have? You know, I've learned to fall in love with being by myself at certain times, because in those moments you become a better human being if you really allow yourself to do that deep rooted work.
I completely agree. On my last interview, I was just saying how, because we touched on a similar topic of just that alone time. And I was saying how, like, I'm in a season where, I mean, obviously because of the pandemic to a degree, but also just because since I like moved to North Carolina and like my husband is still kind of transitioning down here, like I've spent a lot of time by myself. And in the beginning,
Yes.
yeah, in the beginning it was like super hard and I was like an emotional wreck and it sucked. And then I kind of decided to like get my life together and start being creative. Hence, here we are doing this interview. But it's
Yes,
like,
I'm
you're
so
like
proud of you.
when you go through it, it's definitely like growth on the other end for sure.
Absolutely, man. And when you silence all the noise as much as possible, like, because it's a loud world. And let me tell you something, I could be locked in a room by myself, no TV, no music, no nothing. And my mind is so loud. Like, my mind just goes and goes and goes. But through being intentional on taking that time to be by myself every single day, and it's really not to be by myself, it's just to pray to God and really center myself and all that good stuff, it you get used to it. You definitely get used to it.
I agree. Because before it was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be alone, I'm about to be by myself. And now
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like,
brave. You're definitely brave. I've never had an experience like that, but
no.
you're definitely brave.
Now I'm like, okay, like, where do I want to be in life? And like, what can I do to help me get there? And like, for a while I was doing puzzles, but it sucks because now everybody's doing puzzles. I'm like really upset about this. Like, I've been doing jigsaw puzzles for a minute now, like for months. And now that everybody's inside, everybody wants to do puzzles. So they're all sold out in stores. So I don't have that outlet anymore. Like, I'm really upset. But anyways, so now that I don't have my puzzles, I'm like, okay, like, what can I do for my podcast to make it better? And like, what can I
There
cook
you go.
today? And like, just really it's really helping me to get into that creative space, which I think is awesome.
Right. And what I love so much about what you're doing too, like we were talking about it a little bit before we hopped on, is you just move. Like, don't get caught up in making it perfect and what people are going to think. You got to do what's good for you and what brings you joy in your heart. And you just go and you make the adjustments along the way.
Yes, completely. Okay, I feel good about this. So like, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so again, more background. So like I said, this podcast is named after Cardi B, ironically. It's so funny because like I named my podcast after her, but like I really don't follow her.
I love her
I'm
little ratchet self. Okay. And my husband has this thing. He's like, don't nobody say anything about Cardi B around Keila because she will really take personal offense. Like, those are her real people. I'm like, I will.
You know, it's funny because like I haven't been on Instagram. I think in June it'll be like a year of me being off of Instagram. And I just think sometimes about how many people I used to follow on Instagram, like, because I feel like Instagram people, like, they mostly focus on Instagram. Like, they might have a Facebook page, but it's not the same content. So I'll like see them randomly and I'm like, oh yeah, like I used to be all up on that person's stories and photos. I guess like she's one of them to a degree. So that's why I'm like, I named this after her song and stuff. And like, I'm about to continue, but like, I really I don't know. I'm not like die hard. Like,
I feel like I can relate to
Cardi.
that song when it comes to like being in the gym. Because let me tell you something, right? I have struggled with my weight my whole entire life. And I got to a point where I was in the best shape of my entire life. Your girl had a little 4-pack poking through. I was gassed. You couldn't tell me nothing. And then I got married and my husband got me so comfortable being thicker than a Snicker because that's how he likes me. And it got to a point where I'm like, I have mad cute clothes in my closet that I can't wear because I'm out here pleasantly plumping it. Mind you, I'm okay. Like, I'm highly confident in the fact that I am a cute little chubby girl and my husband loves me that way. But I'm like, I gotta get back. It's more so I wanted to do something that I would be proud of myself with. And, you know, I just turned 29 this year and I'm like, yo, I can't go into my 30s with the same struggles I've had earlier in my life. And I feel like I'm always up and down. So I get it, like, knock me down 9 times, but I get up 10. Like, no matter how many times, like, I may lose some weight and gain it a little bit back, I just still find myself like, no, girlfriend, like, we got to get it together. I swear I have like 2 people living in my head.
Oh my gosh, so funny. I think we call that, my husband and I, we call it that happy weight because
Yes, it is a happy weight. But
I
your girl's too
definitely, yeah, me too. But then I got pregnant.
and it made it okay. I get it.
Yeah, but no, as soon as this little girl comes out, I can't wait to like get back into the gym because it really does help.
Yes, you was killing it too, girlfriend. That's why you probably got pregnant.
Yeah, yeah. And then my husband's like, "Oh, when you get back to that, you're getting pregnant again." And I'm like, "Oh God, you better wait."
Oh my goodness.
But okay, continue. That was a good little. That was a sad note. Okay, so one of the things that made me like follow Cardi B and kind of like admire her come up was the fact that she did it completely being herself. Like, she had no type of filters or apologies for like who she is and where she came from. And I think that's so dope. So what does it look like to you to live your life, like just being authentic and not having a filter? Like, what does that look like to you? What are some key components to doing that? Like, can we just talk about that a little?
Absolutely. And I'm actually kind of geeked that this is even a topic because I was actually just talking about this with my husband. So I definitely struggled with not being myself for a majority of my life. I have this deep-rooted issue that I realized of not being accepted or abandonment, a neglect. Like, it's some sort of spirit like that I really struggled with, just with my dad not being in my life, both of my parents struggling with drugs. As I was younger, I really always thought like they valued drugs over more so me. Like, I took it personal as a kid. Like, I really thought something was wrong with me. So it's something that I never really healed from until recently. But what's funny is, I've been a business owner for about 8 years. I've been in the business with my husband and, through involving myself with professional development and just really diving into like the Shark Tank, if you will. I felt some sense of like intimidation where I just felt like I really needed to be on my best behavior at all times. When you're on the phone, you have your like corporate voice. That's like the best way I can explain it. Like, I just was always on my corporate voice, and that's super adaptive. At the end of the day, I'm a city girl. I've grew up, born and raised in the city. And I definitely have a little city swag to myself, and I definitely have a little fire in myself. And I've learned to fully embrace and step into fully who Keila is. I want to say about 2 years ago, like I had a breakthrough where it just got to the point where I was tired. Like if you don't like me, and I have no bad intentions, and I really am not, I'm just being myself, and you have a problem with it, I've learned not to make that problem my problem. Like whatever little version of yourself about me, like we don't share that. That's not mine to carry, you know? So, and what God really showed to me was when you're truly authentically yourself, not only are you going to bless people the way that God needs to use you, you're definitely going to receive certain blessings that you wouldn't receive if you were adapting, if you weren't being yourself. And I'm all for that. I'm all for the alignment. I'm like, yes, God, I have my own people who follow me. I have my own people who I follow. Everybody ain't for everybody, you know? And it goes the same way with how Cardi B is. Do I agree with how she carries herself sometimes as a woman sexually? No. Do I agree with some of the stuff that comes out of her mouth? No. I wouldn't act like that, but that's not my business. What I do respect from her is she's super knowledgeable. Like a lot of people would have no idea how knowledgeable she is. She just sounds ignorant because at the end of the day, she's from the Bronx. Like, what do you expect? Like, she's from the hood in Bronx, so she's gonna sound like that. You know what I'm saying? And she has her own certain people that she's gonna bless, and that's it. You're gonna end up playing yourself in life if you try to serve everybody. And that's my take on it.
Yes. I was like, okay, we're done here. There you go.
Drops mic.
Yes, I completely agree with like so much of the stuff that you just said. So thank you for that wisdom. Okay.
No problem. It's definitely helped too, having peers, like especially people I look up to that are fully themselves. They share their flaws, and it's okay. Like I've learned more from other people's flaws and my flaws than people's perfections or my perfections. So now I'm to the point where like I really don't care about sharing embarrassing moments or some things that in my past I would be ashamed of, because it blesses people. There's some things that people are going through right now that are so scared to speak up because they're afraid they're going to get shut down. They're afraid they're going to get judged. And I don't represent that. I'm not for that. So that's why I love to just be open. And sometimes I scare my husband because he doesn't know what's going to come out of my mouth. But I'm free. Like I really, really feel free in my skin.
That's so beautiful. Like, yes, freedom. Like, how many people can say that? Like, I feel free. And I feel like that's definitely like a goal for me in how I live. And yeah. So,
You know what I learned about that though, Ginger, about being free? It's every single day work. You're not going to get to a point where you're free and that's it. Like you got to maintain that freedom, because you can get bound and take a couple steps back real quick if you're not intentional.
Say that. And that's something else I've been noticing too, because like I'm no fool. Like when coronavirus started to hit, I was like, ooh, okay, God, like I know you're working in the midst of this, so what's up?
Yeah.
It's crazy because I have been journaling. I don't know if you guys hear my husband's car rubbing in the background, but anyway, I have been journaling for like a couple of years now, and it's just crazy to see like the cycles. Like I went through this place of like being so like into my time with God, and like God is showing me this, God is showing me that, this is the scripture I read today, this is what I think about that, and like I just had this dream, and then I kind of got away from that, to be really, and it's crazy because I think in like 2017 or whatever, 2018, I started writing these like dear future husband letters, and it was just like whatever would come to me in the moment, like random stuff. But anyways,
That's cute.
yeah, it was fun. I started doing that and then I forgot about them. Fast forward to like a couple months ago, my husband and I are like sitting in our house and I'm like going through my phone and I'm like, oh, like look at these letters.
Oh, these are for you.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, like I want you to send me them. Send me like a few it was literally like 80 something letters. And he was like, okay, send me like 3 a day. And so we did that for a little bit and it was crazy because in some of the letters I was just like my love for the Lord really came through and I was like, I can't wait to like raise our kids together and go to church and like just be an example for other people of like what Jesus can do. And it was coming from a really pure place, but at the time like I wasn't in that place anymore. So when he read those letters, I was almost like a little bit embarrassed and I was like, yeah, that's not really, I don't know if I would word it like that. I don't know if that's like really who I am. But then now, since I'm like spending time with God again, and it's really so, it's been like so healing and I just feel like so much more like pure. I want to say the real word is clarity, but pure just felt right in the moment. Anyways,
No,
like
that's really, really dope and creative. I love that.
yeah, now that I'm spending that time with God again, like I should be, I'm like, no, like that kind of is me in those letters. But yeah, like that it really is an everyday thing because that's what
Yes,
super quick.
girlfriend. And don't let the devil lie to you. That is you. And it's okay to go through different seasons. It's okay. Like I think I'm actually glad that you even mentioned that because that's real. A lot of people struggle with that guilt. I know I struggle with that guilt sometimes. And it's funny that you say that. Like I was looking back in my journal log back from like 2017 when my dad passed away. So my dad just died a few years ago from a drug overdose. And that's when I just was like, you know what, God, I've had it. I can't do this without you. I'm a hot mess without you. It's not working. And I was like, I dove in head first because I was going through a really, really, really tough, dark time in my life at that time. And I remember thinking like, wow, God, like, I don't want to get to a point where something really bad has to happen to me for me to be like beyond thirsty for you. Like, I want this just to be like, I want to be stage 5 clinger with God. You know what I'm saying? Like, because at the end of the day, I was listening to Pastor preach this morning and he said, you have never felt a high until you have been on fire for Jesus. And I remember probably like 10, 11, 12 years ago when I was really partying and turning up, I probably would have laughed and thought that was corny, but I know how that feels and I've experienced it for myself. And he's right. Like it's a different type of feeling. You can't even explain it. And I remember I caught myself. I was like, I got to get back to that. And God checked me. He said, stop comparing your old you with the you now. It doesn't matter if you were doing better in the past. That's not the season anymore. This is a new season. And now I'm like, I want to get bigger and better than that, whatever that looks like. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's so important to be in alignment and just talk to him so you can get to that. Because as humans, we're not that deep and we're not that smart to know what that looks like by ourselves.
That is so real and definitely resonated with me because right now I'm just like, okay, God, like we are getting it back together day by day. And I'm just like, okay, so coronavirus and quarantine and all this is not going to last forever. So I'm like, okay, how do I make sure that this is stuff that becomes everyday things and I don't let go of it, especially with like me getting ready to welcome my daughter into the world. Like I'm about like what kind of woman do I want to be? Like what do I want her to look up to? So, but oh my gosh. I feel like school. What is it? Fangirl? I don't even know, but I'm just like, yes. Like I completely agree with you. Like it's a different kind of high, but
Yeah, it is.
I feel like it takes stuff to get to that point, but like once you get
Oh, definitely.
it's so sweet. So sweet for sure.
It is. And people on the outside definitely notice it too.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Like I was watching ET this morning preach and then like I was thinking about it and I'm like, oh, it's Saturday, so I'm like off this weekend and I'm like tomorrow's Sunday. So I'm like, yay, more church, more God time. It's so funny.
I thought I lost you for a second, but my clumsy behind just muted myself, so.
It's okay. Yeah. So I'm just gonna move on to the fun questions because I feel like we definitely well, I will give you most of the credit. Like you definitely hit on some amazing stuff. So
Oh, thank you. It's us, girlfriend. It's us.
I feel good about moving on to the fun stuff. So what song do you have on repeat right now?
What song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't laugh at me. But it's Queen Latifah, Unity.
Oh
You
my
and I,
gosh.
Keila.
Yes. Did you just post that the other day or something?
I did.
Yes. I don't even know how I found out about that song, but it is such a vibe. Like
It is. Who you calling a you know what I'm saying? Don't get me started.
yes. Throwback. I love
Yes,
it.
anything 90s vibes, I'm all for it. And DJ D Nice, okay, he has me back on my 90s vibe. So I love his playlist.
I miss
Girl,
where do you listen to his playlist? Cause
Spotify.
okay,
Get
I'm
with
not
it.
Spotify.
It's such feel good music.
I'm like, well, he was the one that did the whole like club quarantine,
He
right?
does it like every day now.
Yeah, and then I'm not on Instagram, so like I was just seeing everybody post about it and like the
Well,
not
now you
thinking
can
outside the
join. It's
party.
on Spotify.
Thank
Spotify.
you for putting me on.
Yes, just look up DJ D Nice homeschool playlist, and it is so fire. It's like cookout music.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that because that is definitely like the vibe right now. Like as the season is changing. I mean, today in North Carolina, like the weather sucks, but like yesterday it was so beautiful. And like since I just got into my house, we're still like working on furnishing it. And I've just been like trying to slip my husband hints like we need a grill. We need a grill. And then every time I go outside and like smell somebody grilling, I'm like, oh babe, do you smell that? Like yes. He's
It's
like
the smell of the grill calling us.
facts. And he's like, okay, so do you want a bed or do you want a grill? And I'm like, when I walk outside and I smell this, I mean, grill doesn't seem so bad. So it's so funny that you said that because I can't wait. I mean, I don't even know what kind of summer I'm about to have being a new mom.
I don't think any of us know the summer that we're about to have.
Yeah, that's true too.
New mom or not. To be honest.
No, the whole cookout, just that word just makes me so happy. My inner
I know.
Anyways, once quarantine is over, or whatever, I don't know how you want to take this question. Because, okay, it's a question about travel, but it seems like ironic to ask about travel right now. But let's just pretend quarantine never happened. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
It's so ironic that you're asking that because my flight I had to cancel. I was supposed to be on my way to Mexico this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You're gonna make me cry.
No. Oh, no, don't cry.
No, I won't. But if I could go anywhere, I would go to Thailand because they get like, I don't know, I just always see people riding tigers in Thailand. I just have this idea that I just want to do that.
God. Did you watch Tiger King?
I did.
I did
that was
not.
Yeah, it was a mess. I watched it before everyone else started watching it, and it was a mess.
But anyways, it's funny that you said that because that is what my last guest said too. That's what Rachel said.
Do you remember that? Okay, so do you remember when we were on Myrtle Beach, right? And I wanted us to go to that tiger safari thing, but it was like really expensive. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, well I did, and just because you brought up Tiger King, that safari was mentioned on that show, and I was like, wow, thank God we didn't go.
I was about to say, like, should I be going there?
I used to be all for that, and now no, I don't agree with it. I would like to go see some tigers in the wild, though. I think that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so Thailand. That's cool. And wait, I always mix up like Bali and like, is Bali in Thailand? I don't even know.
I don't know.
It's over
I
there.
don't want to sound
That
stupid.
part.
I
Me
really don't
neither.
know.
Like I just see those people in like infinity pools and like all the green like
yes. It's like
yes.
Thailand gives me jungle Asian vibes. Like,
Yes.
but my husband's scared to go to Thailand with me. He's like, you might have to go by yourself. He's like, that's not handicap accessible. For those listeners that are listening, my husband's in a wheelchair. Yes, but I'm like, we might have to figure this out because that's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I just want to go everywhere anyways, but the fact that like you said that and Rachel said that, I'm just like, okay, like I guess I should go to Thailand too, you know?
Yes.
I'll go. next Lady Lions meetup in Thailand, I'm gonna tell Shelly.
Yeah, that would be next level.
But okay, so the last question is a book recommendation. So it could be something that you're reading right now or something that you read at some point that was like just super impactful for you. So give our listeners a book suggestion.
So my favorite book ever is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I literally read it all the time. It's one of those books that it's not just like a one-time read because there's so many gems in that book, especially as it regards to being spiritually and consciously aware. That book, if I were to say any book changed my life, that book changed my life. It's called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Okay. I've definitely heard of that book, but I don't know if I read it or not.
Oh, so good.
Thank
so
you.
good.
All right. So unless you have any closing thoughts, we are good to go.
No other closing thought besides thank you for having me on your dope podcast. This was a dope experience. And it even more pleasurable because it was with you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Like I'm super excited about this interview and I know that people are gonna get a lot out of it. So love you.
Love you too, girlfriend.